A warm welcome to your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Monday, March 1. Three Barbadian women lost their fight to COVID 19 on Sunday, bringing the death toll to 36. The first was an 85-year-old resident of a nursing home who died at 1:15 p.m. The second patient, a 64-year-old, passed away at Enmore, while the third lady, an 88-year-old, died at a nursing home. All three had underlying conditions. Health and Wellness Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic extended condolences to the grieving families and friends. He noted that while the country was reopening, citizens could not afford to relax their efforts and they must continue to avoid crowds and follow health and safety protocols. Meanwhile, health authorities are worried about the growing number of COVID 19 infections affecting families. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kenneth George told a news conference today they have implemented a new program to crack down on the emerging pattern.
We have instituted a fairly new program wherein persons who live in certain communities and based on their level of risk, we are bringing them into care and we are bringing them into hotels, designated quarantine hotels. We currently have 40 individuals in our quarantine hotels who have been identified who live in communities that are high risk. So there may be several persons living in that house, and the situation at home may not be ideal. These persons have been brought into the our quarantine hotels, and indeed, of those 40, 16 of those individuals have tested positive from a single household. So the message is that COVID, there is community spread, but as you know, today the numbers were 47 individuals. But I would like and let the public of Barbados know that within that 47, that represents several small clusters in families. There's one large cluster and about 4 or 5 smaller clusters within that 47. And we intend to target those individuals and make sure that they are identified early and brought into care.
Dr. George urged Barbadians to remain vigilant, stressing that families must lessen their interaction.
The way how some households in Barbados is set up is that you have several families living on one portion of land. I would encourage that families from a particular house be careful how you integrate with families from another house, because way too often what we are finding is that multiple households within a particular district are being infected because there's a lot of too much movement of individuals. And I would encourage Barbadians to assist us in this way for the period of time for the next 6 to 8 weeks. Please remain to yourself. Wherever possible, remain on your premises and don't invite people over to your households, because that is how disease spreads.
A Barbados Defense Force soldier has been charged in connection with last year's shooting death of a colleague. Runico Amal, grandson of Prout Hill St. Thomas, appeared before the District A Magistrates Court today, accused of unlawfully killing fellow soldier Pablo Kinch on April 6, 2020. The accused was not required to plead to the indictable charge when he appeared before Magistrate Alison Burke this morning. Kinch, a former Lance Corporal, died on the compound of the District A police station after being shot in the chest. Grandison was granted bail in the sum of $50,000, which he secured with one surety. The case against the accused BDF soldier has been adjourned until March 31. It was the first full day of business as the country partially reopened following a near month-long lockdown. There were long lines of traffic at fast food restaurants, hardware stores, public markets, and other major shopping areas today. When a Barbados Today team visited some of these establishments, owners, managers, and employees reported they were excited to be back in business. Owner of G&E General Store on Black Rock Main Road, St. Michael, James Morgan, said it was a busy day.
It has been extremely hectic for the day. It feels really good to be back out, being closed from the 3rd of last month. It was a difficult spell, but we welcome the customers.
At the Bridgetown Fisheries Complex, fisherfolk were busy as they resumed their trade. Most were happy to be back in business.
Well, I don't home, I didn't feel now because the idea is this: you gotta put yourself together and make sure the country is right. You can't look at the dollar, you gotta think about yourself before you can think about the dollar. So it's good to shut down the country and now it's open. I feel great.
I came back to the fish market looking to make some money. First thing I accomplished this morning is getting some jacks, fresh jacks this morning, and I hold them will carry me through the day.
Okay, so jacks is the only thing basically y'all getting right now?
Yeah, jacks is the only thing here for right now because as you can see, boats still here, nobody ain't gone out yet. So mainly it's jacks here for right now.
At the Cheapside Market, popular vendor Angela Green was one of two vendors who took advantage of the reopening, and it paid off.
They couldn't wait till the vegetable market open because they want fresh vegetables. So market opened at 8 and we had a good flow of people. Like tomatoes, it had tomatoes and lettuce and cucumbers and price reasonable. So the price reasonable and okras, that's demand. The okras on demand. Yeah, all the okras. Almost all as you could see, right? Trays was full, but now they're flat. So it was good.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news, in Jamaica, the opposition is calling on the government to impose a lockdown in areas where COVID-19 cases are spiraling out of control. Ocean Masters of Television Jamaica tells us more.
Hospitals out of beds and a positivity rate for Saturday's COVID-19 cases of over 40% is a cause for worry. That's according to opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Maurice Guy. His comments come on the heels of a special press briefing on Sunday where Prime Minister Andrew Holness made this announcement.
So the curfew hour will remain at 8 p.m. nightly to 5 a.m. the following morning until March 23rd, 2021 at 5 a.m.
But members of the public have been skeptical of this measure implemented by the government, as they say it is counterproductive. They say the government should have had some curfews in the daytime, which would be better in curtailing the increasing number of cases of the respiratory illness.
Intention, I think, of the Prime Minister is to reduce the contact time of people with others out there in the community. As to whether this will work, this has to be driven by the data that says that, okay, we have this curfew time, and then we are seeing these numbers in the particular areas that we see the spikes.
Mr. Holness argues that the curfew hours are in a bid to keep productivity going.
On the international scene, France's former president Nicolas Sarkozy was today found guilty of corruption and influence peddling and sentenced to a 3-year jail term.
The judge read out the verdict that the 3 judges had arrived at, the senior judge, and she said that it was clear that Mr. Sarkozy and his 2 co-conspirators knew that they were doing something that was wrong, and that this had brought French justice into disrepute, had given it a very bad image. Because along with Mr. Sarkozy, his friend and lawyer Thierry Herzog has also been convicted, as has a former senior judge, now retired, Gilbert Azibert, whom Mr. Sarkozy
was accused of attempting to bribe in return for information about a separate case into allegations of illegal campaign funding. Now, the judge also said that the 1 year in prison that Mr. Sarkozy has been sentenced to, he'll be allowed to serve that at home with an electronic tag. So the former president will not serve any time behind bars. Nevertheless, he's the first French president in modern history to have received a custodial sentence. Another former president, Jacques Chirac, also a right-winger, was convicted of corruption back in 2011, but he only received a suspended sentence.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.